First Things First is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin
Jenna,
Wiles,
what starts
and guys,
tonight?
you know me.
What starts tonight?
I was just about to tell you, you guys know me. I don't often have plans at night, right? This is not, nighttime is not my time. Tonight, Nick, tonight I got plans. And not big plans. It'll be me and maybe Steph in the couch and a TV. We got some NFL football tonight. Finally, the defending champion Chiefs will come out.
Yeah, you said it, Jenna.
And do something for Nick. Right, of course I did.
The defending champion Chiefs.
We've
glorious.
got two
Super Bowl
solid
hangover.
hours to talk about that. Well, we shall see. But we got to start with some action last night before we can get to action tonight. And last night, Raptors and Celtics, Toronto on the brink in Game 6. To say this one was close, double overtime, and Kyle Lowry just too much to handle late in the game, finishing with 33 points. And a stern refusal to go home. Raptors win 125-122, double overtime again to send this series to a Game 7 tomorrow night. Here's how some of the rest of the league responded. Jared Solinger chimed in saying, Kyle Lowry, the greatest Raptor ever, hashtag not up for debate. Magic Johnson, always the prolific tweeter, adding, I love watching Kyle Lowry play. I call him the little general because of his toughness, leadership, scoring ability, basketball IQ, and will to win. And let us not forget Joel Embiid. Kyle Lowry is not appreciated as he should be, hashtag winner. Boy, Joel Embiid is just so busy after he left the bubble, all that tweeting going on. After that epic game last night, who do you think, Nick, has the advantage now heading into a very, very big Game 7?
Well, this is really concerning for the Celtics. The Celtics, 96 hours ago, were the favorites to win the conference. And now they're going to have to win this series 3 times. They had the series won with a half-second left in Game 3, and OG hit a shot for the ages. They were dominating the majority of the first half last night. They let the Raptors get back into it. They put the clamps on them defensively at the end of regulation. The Raptors went scoreless in the final 4.5 minutes. It goes to overtime anyway, and good God, that's Norman Powell's music. And now all of a sudden, the Celtics, I feel like, are playing with immense pressure in Game 7. And the Raptors, I think you could argue, have the most carefree, least pressurized Game 7 in sports history. This was supposed to be a retooling year after Kawhi left. They already won their title. They were already counted out multiple times this season and multiple times this series. And I know they're exhausted, but you know who's also exhausted, Brandon, is the Celtics. And unlike the Celtics, the Raptors go at least 7 deep. The Celtics have 5 guys they trust, and one of them's Kemba Walker on a shaky knee coming off a terrible game. So my pick before this series was Celtics in 7. And I hate to change a pick when it's still alive, when I could nail it.
No, do not
But I got to
change your
tell you,
pick.
Brandon.
Wow, that's pretty good.
That's
pretty good.
If this isn't an official
change. If the pick didn't exist, I think the Raptors are the favorites. I don't know why Wilds is so disgusted. I think the Raptors are the favorites for Game 7. Well, no, because the facts on the ground. Go ahead, Brandon.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Go ahead, Wild. All right, I'll go. Listen, I don't know if they have an advantage. I mean, if we throw momentum in there, then you can potentially give it to the Raptors. But last night showed me that this series and these teams are more evenly matched than I thought. If I'm being honest, guys, I wrote them off. When Kawhi left, I wrote this team off. But they've done all year is hit big shot after big shot, win big game after big game. Kyle Lowry, everyone's talking about it. We saw the tweets coming from around the league. Everyone's talking about how great he is. That was on full display last night, not only on the court, but off the court. I love this mindset. That's what I like watching when I watch basketball or football. I like to watch body language. I like to watch how guys interact with each other. This guy had a still face on. After the game, he didn't smile. He wasn't cheering. He wasn't hanging from the rafters. This guy said, no, we still got more business. This guy knew we're supposed to be here. So Kyle Lowry, man, everyone's heaping his praise right now, rightfully so. We go back to game 3, the perfect pass to OG last night, just play after play after play in his leadership
just
ability.
nails.
So this is more, Wows, this is even. This is an even game 7 for me. I'm excited to watch. Last night was just pure, great playoff basketball.
It was one of the greatest playoff games ever. You had 51 points scored in the double overtime. But just real quick, before I toss it to you, Jenna, so I can defend myself against Wild's body language and disgust at the fact that I might change the pick. I do. Listen, let me make this clear. This was a pre-playoff pick when I laid out the bracket. That was pre-Gordon Hayward injury. So if you're ever allowed to tweak a pick when a major player goes down with an injury, it is allowable. By the way, Jenna, I have not officially changed the pick. I'm just letting you know over the next couple hours, I'm going to let it ruminate, marinate, and figure out who I think is going to win Game 7. Go ahead, Jenna.
Nick made his picks back in February. Just want to make sure everyone knows before we even got into a bubble. So I do want to mention, Wilds, you and I are the only Celtics fans on this set, and I knew that as soon as you heard Jason Tatum not blame Nick Nurse for, let's say, distracting him when he threw that errant pass late, tied game, fourth quarter, I knew you would be fired up. And then I heard Jaylen Brown say this. Buddy, take a listen.
I think it's a lot of emotions. It's very intense and things like that. And sometimes things seem to go overboard at times. Let's keep it in check. Let's keep it, respectable, and let's keep playing basketball. Grown men should be able to control themselves. Especially coaching staff. So let's continue to do what we got to do. Play basketball. Let's be ready to fight.
Nick, I wouldn't be mad at you for changing your pick now. I'm not mad at Nick for changing his pick since the Raptors actually have 7 players on the court. One is the referee that didn't call the foul on Kemba. The other one being Nick Nurse, who is out there calling for the ball in the corner. And Nick Nurse, I'm not mad at it. I like the competitive spirit. I'm all for it. But don't go halfway. If you're going to do it, go the whole way. Go entirely on the court. Put on a green jersey. Go to the bubble tattooist. Get full Daniel Tice double arm sleeves. Shave your head and call for the ball all game 7. Because don't do it halfway. Don't be there and then Tatum throws the ball at you and you scatter like you didn't know what was happening. It was an outrageous call, non-call, whatever it is. I respect Tatum, Nick, for not making a big deal of it. But you knew when you saw this pass, you knew it was Nick Nurse's fault. You knew it.
Brandon,
Guys,
I try to be real quick, Brandon. I try to be a great teammate. I am embarrassed on our teammate Kevin Wild's behalf right now. This is the most, listen, man, Jason Tatum, who y'all have been demanding I call a superstar all year with 45 seconds left in a closeout game, threw a ball to a 48-year-old white dude in Dockers. Like, you can try to be like, oh, he was 8 feet out of the coaching box.
Hey, Nick,
he's also 7 feet tall. Go ahead, Brandon.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I disagree. Jenna, I picked the Celtics back in December.
Yes, you did.
Remember that. To win the conference, all right? All right, thank you. But this reminds, and I may not be a Celtics fan, but this reminds me of my team. I'm from Pittsburgh, and this reminds me of Coach Tomlin in 2013.
Thank you.
Do you remember that play? Jacoby kickoff return.
Course.
Heady play.
You're talking about coaches and emotions. My guy, Coach T, phenomenal job being a distraction on the field when he's supposed to be off of it. So Nick Nurse, I mean, we know he's a student of the game. He's a student of sports. He just took this out of Coach Tomlin's playbook. That's all.
Hold on.
He knew what he was doing, Nick. He knew what he was doing.
If Nick Nurse had bumped, no, he didn't. If Nick Nurse had bumped a player, if he had deflected a pass, it'd be different.
He's not supposed to be down there. What is he doing in this corner?
I know he's not supposed to be down there.
Look, he's not supposed to be there.
That's
the end of discussion, Nick. End of discussion.
Okay, all right.
He's been around the game for 30-something years. He knows he's not supposed to be down there. This is totally foul. Man, this should be overturned. You know what? Give the Celtics this game. This is BS.
There you go. There's a hot take.
It is against the rules. It is against the rules, and let me tell you something, though. The only reason anyone cares is because Tatum made a huge mistake. If Tatum if they call in a tied Wilds, if they do what you're asking them to do, in a tied playoff game, call a technical foul on coach out of the box with a minute left, the way we excoriated the officials for kicking out Kristaps, it'd be that times 1,000. Like, listen, Jason Tatum, don't throw the ball to the opposing team's coach. Don't throw it to your coach, the opposing team's coach, any of the adorable children in the bubble. If a mascot makes it there, don't throw it to him either. There's 4 guys, Tatum, Wilds, that your guy Tatum can throw it to.
He's
Nick
literally
Nurse
on
is
the
not
court.
one of them. And he's close. It's close.
They should not have called a foul.
He's in the corner.
But Nick Nurse knows what he was doing and deserves some responsibility for the Raptors win, which is his job. Congratulations. I just also think he should get arm sleeves to confuse the Celtics more for Game 7.
Give the Celtics the game. Give the Celtics the
All right,
game.
we got a Game 7 set for a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow night. The NFL's back, gentlemen. Been waiting a long time to say that. We preview Texans Chiefs next. First things first.
Yes.
Texans and Super Bowl.
FS1 Fantasy Week sponsored by DraftKings. Play free for your shot at the $1 million top prize during Week 1 only on DraftKings. Back here, first things first, time for Four Things First. Brandon, you got to keep Talib hanging him up.
Oh, man. Awesome career. This guy retired yesterday, but that wasn't my favorite part. I love competing against him, but I loved his honesty. Let's go to what he said while he was retiring. Let's throw out this quote. And I think it also gives us an insight of Bill Belichick and how he thinks. My guy, my big homie Bill Belichick called my phone, told me that he had the role of a lifetime for me. He really wanted me to come in and strap tight ends, meaning guard tight ends. I was halfway out the door. I got flights. I started finding apartments. But then I kind of started going through the schedule. I kind of seen Kittle, Kelsey, Waller. So usually when I get in this position, I'm going to a new team. My thoughts are all positive. This time, I looked at this bleep schedule and I said, can I even strap these damn tight ends? I said, oh man, it's over with. Like,
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Fantastic.
That's what I love about him, his honesty, man. One of the guys that love being in his own skin. Hell of a career. Good job, man. Congratulations.
All right, let's move on. Kevin, you got a tournament twist.
Oh, we broke out the dance music for this, Jenna. Mike Krzyzewski leading the charge to have every single team enter the big dance. So we put on the techno music. That would be 357 teams in the tourney. You would need a huge legal pad to fill it all out the bracket. Here's the problem. You divide 357 by 4, you get an odd number. So it would have to be a 189 matchup, which leaves one poor team out. Could you imagine how bad your season is? Like, yeah, they're inviting every other college team to the tournament except us, guys. We've got to get them next year.
And Nick, you have a little more to add on this, no?
Yeah, I can't believe, Wilds, you fell for this because it's so obvious what the NCAA and the ACC are trying to do here. It's the way you get a long guys' weekend in Vegas. So let me explain it. Your buddy calls you up. He's like, hey, let's go to Vegas, do our fantasy draft over a long weekend there. You're like, how am I going to sell this to my wife? So you go to your wife. You're like, hey, Tommy, he's having a bachelor party in Thailand. We're going to be there a week. She's like, are you out of your mind? You're not. You're like, hey, it's set up. A few days later, you come back to her. You're like, hey, plans changed. Long weekend in Vegas instead. Something she would have hated. Now she's like, that sounds great. Go do it. This is all just to get 96 teams in the tournament. They come out yesterday, they're like, we're going to do 96 teams. Everyone's going to be like, oh, that's terrible. But if you set it at 356, the folks who would have hated 96 are going to say, oh, okay, I can live with it. I know what you're doing, NCAA. I've done it before myself. It's a heady play by you, but I'm on to you, Jenna.
I could literally do an entire show on what you just said. I love it. Adam Duvall. The Braves outfielder had himself a day, hit not one, not two, 3 home runs in a game. Didn't do it once. Last Wednesday, he hit 3 home runs in a game. 2 3-home-run games. Hank Aaron didn't do that. Chipper Jones never did that for the Braves. And he had 9 RBI. And the Braves beat the Marlins 29-9. And before the game, he said this to his wife: whatever happens tonight is for you. So as you guys now know, Adam Duvall is my favorite athlete of all time.
That
of
was
all
bold.
time, because I'm
He
not
said that to his
hyperbolic
wife.
at all. All right, guys, let's talk some football. The Kansas City Chiefs open their title defense tonight against the Texans. Fox Bet has us Kansas City as 9.5-point favorites here, as does Nick and Nick's family and everyone Nick knows. The Chiefs' Super Bowl roster still mostly intact, while the Texans playing their first game without DeAndre Hopkins, without David Johnson, and Brandon Cooks is listed as questionable with that quad injury. So, Brandon, I got to ask you, given all of that, what would you say is the key now to this game this evening?
Deshaun Watson. I mean, this is why you get paid the big bucks. There's so many storylines and there's so many different matchups that we can talk about. The fundamentals of football doesn't change, okay? Third down, that's something we need to watch as fans, to sit back and see if your team is converting at 45% conversion on third down. If they are, they're probably in the top 5 in the NFL. If you do that, that means that your team could potentially make the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. And then there's the red zone. Then there's also situational football, closing out the first half, 2-minute drives. But at the end of the day, it has to go back to Deshaun Watson. He doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins. You just talked about Brandon Cooks. I want to see the maturation of Deshaun. We all know that this guy is capable of winning multiple championships in the right situation. But when you look at his game, he does the hardest thing easy. He makes the hard play. He makes the toughest pass. He does that. But I want to see Deshaun drop back, go to 1, go to 2, go to check down. I want to see Deshaun Watson drop back, go to his first read, his second read, and then throw it away. I don't want to see him taking any more hits like this. If Deshaun Watson, can do this, we're looking at a team that can really be a contender. This guy, he's the key to success for not only this game, but for the rest of the year.
So, listen, I think for the rest of the year, Brandon, I agree with you entirely. Like, the Texans are going to go through Deshaun Watson. And for this game in particular, though, I disagree somewhat. Because we just saw these teams play, and Deshaun Watson led his team to 31 points, and they got whooped by 3 touchdowns. And so, to me, there is a bigger question, which is, what have the Texans done to change the dynamics of their defense, which is incredibly weak, aside from J.J. Watt and maybe Whitney Merciless, up against this Chiefs offense? Because they cannot guard Kelsey without doubling him, and they cannot guard Tyreek Hill without doubling him. And so, if that's the situation, then it almost does become a can you outscore the Chiefs type of game. And, man, I don't know if they want to get into that battle. Now, they did get good news this morning. I think Tom Pelissero reported that Brandon Cooks, who's questionable, that they do think he's going to be able to play, which is absolutely key. The biggest weakness on this Chiefs roster is their corners. You are going to have to be able to take advantage of mediocre at best cornerback play by the Kansas City Chiefs if you're going to have any chance. And to your point about Deshaun not getting hit, can you keep Deshaun upright? They played the Chiefs twice last year. Neither one of those games, Chris Jones was on the field. So now all of a sudden the Chiefs add their best defensive player to the mix. I just think this is a really, really rough spot for Deshaun and the Texans. And the onus is going to be on them to try to keep up Wilds with the highest flying offense in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only danger that the Chiefs really have here is if they let their first Super Bowl since the Nixon administration get to their head and really lose focus at the task on hand. But I don't think they did, Nick. And Brandon, I'd like your take on this. And I mean, granted, right after they won the Super Bowl, Kelsey got up there and said, the dynasty is just beginning. And, so be it. And then they certainly at the parade, they're chugging beers and having fun. But, who doesn't? And then, and then in July, after he signs his deal, Mahomes releases the video that says they're chasing a dynasty. Okay, that's fine. 24 hours later, the Chiefs put out another tweet that says, no, we're not chasing the dynasty. We're actually building the dynasty. And okay, that's still, you're not totally focused on this year. And 2 weeks later after that, Chris Jones said, we want another parade and another parade and another parade. We're going to make sure we don't have not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5+ Super Bowls. But again, Nick, I think they're focused. I don't think they're just trying to do Patriots cosplay here. And then, of course, Tyreek Hill enters the chat, and he says, why are we talking about 5, guys? I don't think we should be talking about 5. I think we're chasing Michael Jordan. We're cross-sport. So I'm going to go 5 to 7. I'll just keep going. So, Brandon, I understand how a lot of Chiefs doubters think that they have taken the eye off the ball and are actually looking a decade ahead instead of looking at the Texans. I personally am not one of them. Do you think that they've kept their focus enough for this opening matchup?
You know what, Wiles, that you did a phenomenal job of laying that out for all of us. And obviously, that message has cascaded down to the avid fan, the Chiefs fan. We have our guy, Nick Wright, on this show. Every time we not only talk about the Chiefs, we just talk about football. And he's talking about, we're Super Bowl champs. Jenna, make sure you put respect on her name and you say Super Bowl champ.
Correct.
This,
you should do that.
This
says it right there, champs.
This is a classic example of Super Bowl hangover. That's what this is, Nick Wright. You are the perfect example of why it's hard to repeat. So we appreciate you for standing up as a fan, but this is not the way to go. You got to put your actions behind those words. And I do believe you're right, Wilds. I do believe this is a team. Mahomes, Andy Reid have great, Matthew. This is a team that have great leadership. They want to win. They're more than capable of winning. 100%. Go ahead, Jenna.
Before I throw it to you, we have Eric Mangini. Hold on. We have Eric Mangini coming up on the show. What is the one thing Eric Mangini always said, which was the key for the Patriots? You do not pick up where you left off the season before. They do not start the season any further ahead of any other team in the NFL. Everyone starts from the exact same spot. And I wonder if all the offseason hoopla that Wilds laid out maybe has gotten to them, that they are not starting at the same starting gate. Maybe theirs is pushed ahead a little bit more. Could that get them into a little bit of trouble?
Yeah, I know Coach Mangini says that, and it sounds really good. You know what I think the actual key to the Patriots run was? You have the greatest quarterback ever and a Hall of Fame coach. Oh, well, how about that?
He's not.
You know who has that in common? The Kansas City Chiefs.
Nope.
And
Nick's
so,
not buying it.
you guys, everyone keeps using the term Super Bowl hangover. And with respect, y'all are all misusing it. That is applied to the loser of the previous year's Super Bowl. The winner of the Super Bowl each year, almost without fail, is really, really good again. The last time the defending Super Bowl champion wasn't really good the following year was Denver when Peyton Manning then retired. The team changed entirely. But the Seahawks
you backed up into the Super Bowl. You backed up into the Super Bowl. Come on, man. There was a few games
we
you guys
came
were down
back
with 20-something
into the Super Bowl. We were down 10 in every game, and then we came back in every game.
We will continue to discuss this. The bottom line is we got football tonight. Hey, can Lamar Jackson run his MVP season back again? We'll discuss that. So much more. First things first. Hangover. FS1 Fantasy Week, sponsored by DraftKings. Play free for your shot at the $1 million top prize during Week 1 only on DraftKings. Back here, talking some Texans Chiefs. Recently engaged Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs set to open their title defense tonight against the Texans in a rematch of their divisional round classic from last season. They're at Arrowhead, but basically only them. About 16,000 fans will be allowed in. That's not too many. We welcome in Coach Eric Mangini now. Coach, what do the Texans have to do tonight to pull off the Week 1 upset over the Chiefs? And good morning and welcome back, and it's great to have you with us.
Good to be back. Good to see everybody, and excited about tonight. I'd say the first thing that they have to do is they've got to play complementary football, and that sounds like a coaching term, but it's true in the sense that offensively they're going to need long, sustained drives. The last thing they want to do is to try to play fast break type offense with the Chiefs. They're going to lose on that. Running the football, the Chiefs struggled some with stopping the run last year. I think they were 26th. So those long, sustained drives offensively, and try to figure out a little bit of what their identity is going to be without Hopkins. And then defensively, it's going to be really important to mix coverages. If you're going to double team, look, take your pick on who you want to double team. You just can't do it play in and play out where it's always Travis Kelce. Mahomes can't come to the line of scrimmage with pre-snap information. Otherwise, he's going to kill you. And then I'd say, and I've said this 1,000 times, he's so dangerous in the pocket. You've got to make sure that he doesn't get out of the pocket, because those broken plays equal big plays, and containing him and keeping him in the pocket is the other element defensively that they're going to have to do.
So, Coach, to me, I'm going to lay out kind of specifically 4 things, and I bounce it back to you and tell me how it resonates with you. I think the first one, and this is going to sound obvious, but in this game it's particularly important, they must win the turnover battle. Not play them even, and if they are negative in the plus minus, they have no chance. So that's number 1. Number 2, Brandon Cooks, who's listed as questionable, he has to play and not just be a decoy. He's got to stretch the defense in order to open up some of those running lanes or intermediate passing if David Johnson's coming out of the backfield. The third one is J.J. Watt has to have a monster game. I know he is not 3-time Defensive Player of the Year caliber anymore, but when he's been healthy, he's been outstanding. And lastly, I think Bill O'Brien's got to be super aggressive on 4th downs. The Chiefs have shown the ability in years past to score whether they have 75 yards to go or 45 yards to go. The key is to keep your offense on the field. So those 4 things, if we're talking about a Texans upset tomorrow morning, Coach, I think it's going to be because the Texans checked all 4 of those boxes.
Well, typically you do try to play a lot more aggressively when you feel like you're facing a team that you're outgunned with, and you'll take some more chances on 4th down. But the last thing that you want to do is give Kansas City opportunities with great field position. So understanding and when to take those chances and when not to take those chances, I do like what you're saying in terms of aggressiveness. Playing a clean game, yeah, that's something that you strive for every game. But you're right, giving them opportunities with turnovers, that'll be an issue as well. In terms of individual performances, J.J. Watt, yeah, that would help a lot. But I think collectively, the back end, the secondary, they can't not give Mahomes a bunch of pre-snap information, because otherwise J.J. Watt won't even have a chance to rush the passer because the ball will come out quickly.
Yeah, Coach, this is how I see it. There's 2 big factors in this game. One is Deshaun Watson, and Nick, you did a good job of highlighting the defensive struggles last year and then also against the 2 matchups that they had. J.J. Watt and that defense, I just can't see those guys giving up 4 touchdowns in the second quarter again. I can't see those guys giving up 50-plus points again. Like, what they did was, we don't see that week in and week out. Like, Mahomes putting up 50-something points, Mahomes throwing 4 touchdowns in the second quarter, that's almost impossible. Now, Nick, I know you probably say the other. So I don't see this defense struggling the way they did. But the biggest factor is Deshaun. Deshaun and his maturation. Deshaun is a player that does the hard things easy. He can make the big play. But we know that if a quarterback is going to lead the way, it's about situational football. It's about being able to get to your first read, your second read, and then going to the check down. Or if the check down isn't there, if no one's there, throwing it away. This is a guy that think he can win the game on each play that is called. He can, but you got to play chess. Don't play checkers. So, Coach, there's a lot of people talking about X's and O's, wilds. I know you see the game differently as well, which I always love your perspective. But before we go there, Coach, I want to know, like, in the meeting room, you're the head coach, I'm player, I'm sitting in the front, I got my notepad open. What message are you delivering right now? Because this is something we've never seen before. We're dealing with COVID-19, no preseason. How are you going to speak to us to get us to do the things we need to do to be prepared for this moment?
Well, the most important thing going into the first game, and the first game is always the hardest game because of so many unknowns. You're doing things new, they're doing things new. You don't know how things are going to line. And now with no preseason, you've got the added element of not even being able to get a baseline. And that's like a baseline offensively, defensively, but even more importantly, on special teams, you're going in blind. So there are things that are going to happen in the course of the game, and especially the early part of the game, that are going to be disruptive. You may blow a coverage. You may give up a sack that because you don't have the right communication with the offensive line. You may see a personnel group that you didn't expect. You've got to relax and be able to come to the sideline and get those things fixed. This first game, the intensity level too, it's like being over caffeinated. Everybody's so hyped up to start playing that you can be exhausted by halftime. It's got to be. They're not going to win the game in the first quarter. This game has to be won over the course of the entire game. And if guys are spent or guys are fighting or frustrated early, Kansas City will just roll up on them.
Wow.
Coach, with the lack of the preseason, is there an element of taking advantage of that rather than being like, uh-oh, we might make mistakes or stuff might be new to us? Is there an element where, like, they haven't had a preseason, I think we can do X and put them at a disadvantage right away?
Yeah, now you're going to have to figure out what X is. Offensively, they'll go out with a script, and they'll try a lot of different things early. And whatever hits, then you try to give them a ton of that during the course of the game. Defensively, it's more problematic because you've got to react to everything they do. So if they want to come out with 5 true wide receivers, you need to have an answer for it. If they want to come out big, you need to have an answer for it. So you're preparing for so many multiples of multiples. Defensively, it's a lot more challenging. It's whoever is able to come off on the sideline, understand how the game's unfolding, talk about it, and communicate it effectively. That's the team that has the edge.
Coach, I can't believe you didn't say the one thing that I said earlier in the show you would say, that teams don't come in exactly where they left off, that we all start at the starting gate at the same. I had you pegged for that. I said he was going to say those exact words. Super Bowl hangover's a real thing. What's that?
We're still in the first quarter. We have a couple more segments. You killed me on that one.
Oh, I played the whole game already in my head.
You had that for later.
We got
you
some
started
football
too fast.
set for later tonight, Chiefs and Texans. Big traditions, big rivalries. The Big 12 back on Fox. Start your Saturday strong. 10 a.m. Eastern with the Big Noon Kickoff Show, followed by the Big Noon Game of the Week as Arkansas State takes on Kansas State. Fox and the Fox Sports app, the place to be. Back to a little basketball now. Talking some Nuggets, talking some Clippers, and this is Game 4. It was all about the Clips defense in this one. They held Denver to under 40% from the field. Kawhi held all his doubters at bay with a 30-point, 11 rebound, 9 assists, 4 steal, 2 block shot kind of night, and the Clippers win Game 4. Now just one win away from the franchise's first ever trip to the Western Conference Finals. And with that, we welcome in Chris Broussard. Broussard, is this series as good as over with the Clips up 3-1?
Well, first of all, Jenna, let me say congratulations to the Clippers because this is just a shocking development. I've been told by 2 of our esteemed panelists that the Denver Nuggets were clearly, unequivocally, the best team in this series. So for the Clippers to somehow win 3 of 4 games, I mean, that is rare that an inferior team can beat a superior team 3 out of 4 times. It's shocking. So props to the Clippers
my friend.
for their heart. The little engine that could. I mean, it's just incredible. But to answer the question, Jen, it's over. All right, the only question, of course, is does it end in 5 or does it end in 6? I would not be the least bit surprised if Denver wins the next game, pushes it to 6. That's actually what I predicted from the get-go. So that's probably what will happen. We may go 6. But this is over. As far as drama, as far as intrigue, as far as suspense, it's over. Now what we're all watching for is how close or can the Clippers get to their A game for their showdown with the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. Look, I know Nick has been praying against it. He's been hoping against it. He's been trying to speak it out of existence. Out of existence.
I want it to happen.
He does not
I
want
didn't
to see
think it
the
was going to
Clippers in the
happen.
Western
I want it to.
Conference
Yes, I
Finals.
do. Yes, I do.
Come on.
I do want it to
how-
happen. I
you
just didn't
actually
think it
think
was going to
Denver-
happen. I did.
Okay, go
Listen, I
ahead.
picked Denver, but unlike you, Broussard, I pick with my head, not my heart. Now, my head might have taken me wrong, but I told you all before the playoffs I wanted the gauntlet. Portland, Houston, Clippers, Milwaukee. Now, Milwaukee's gone, so maybe it'll be Portland, Houston, Clippers, and then obviously one of the three other teams remaining in the East is what it does look like it's going to be. I must admit, it does appear that the Clippers are going to win this series. Now, I picked the Nuggets in 7. I'm not great at math, but I think to win a series in 7, you have to lose 3 times. You would prefer it not be 3 of the first 4, admittedly. And what I think happened last night was the Nuggets let Game 3 beat them twice. The Nuggets know that they squandered an opportunity in Game 3, and it carried over into their play in the first half of Game 4. And then to their credit, despite being down 18, they tie the game early in the third quarter. And then you saw, as Jenna mentioned, the full force of Kawhi, the full force of that Clippers defense play a really exceptional game, almost start to finish defensively. And Kawhi played an A-level game on both ends all game. And people say I'm a Kawhi Leonard hater. Shout out to Kawhi, tying his career high in playoff assists. One day, I do believe Kawhi Leonard's going to get that elusive first career playoff triple-double to match his one career regular season triple-double. He will get there. I know some people have doubted him. Some people have said it'll never happen. I do believe one day Kawhi will have a 10-assist playoff game. I truly do, in my heart, believe that'll happen one day. But he was great. And listen, I mean, Brandon, you and I both picked the Nuggets. And right now, at least at the moment,
I was one of those guys.
we both look at least slightly foolish. And our good friend, the esteemed Chris Broussard, who's covered the league for 47 years,
fault, Nick.
looks like the right guy on the set. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to try not to go on a rant here, but Nick, it's not our fault. Chris, it's not our fault.
Okay, thank you.
This comes down to
Appreciate
two
that.
guys. This is Jamal Murray. This is Coach Mike Malone. Yesterday, I picked him as my X factor. Let me start with the player before I go to the coach. Jamal Murray looks exhausted. Not exhausted, like game 1 exhausted, didn't have any legs exhausted, but he just looks mentally defeated. We're seeing this guy in the half with his hands on his knees, huffing and puffing, get stopped by Paul George, who we know is a all-time great perimeter defender. And he's just like frustrated, and he's not talking. He's emotionless. It's Jamal Murray is a flash in the pan superstar. He had 4 games where he really looked like a superstar player, and it all was in the bubble the last series. Jamal Murray needs to step up and be a contributor.
Okay.
The second thing, Wilds, is
great
Coach
defense.
Malone. Yes, it is, but that's now you make my point why Coach Malone is to blame as well. Let's look at Steph Curry, the Golden State Warriors, and Coach Kerr. You have a player that can drop 50 any night. This guy needs to be on the move all the time. You need to scheme up some stuff to get this guy in his spot. If he's not capable of creating his own plays, help him out. But when you watch the game, you're seeing Jamal Murray at the top of the key or on the wing. The top of the key or the wing. When are we going to see this guy moving around, running through picks? We're not seeing it, and that all falls on Coach Mike Malone. Coach, you need to scheme up some things. Jamal Murray, we need you to show up.
And by the way, Brandon, here's what else is working against Denver. Let's call it a little tension, a little dissension in the ranks. Michael Porter Jr., none too happy after the game with the Nuggets. Offense, kind of like you mentioned. Take a listen to this.
I wouldn't be either.
I mean, that's really up to the play calls. It's really up to the coaches who they want to put the ball in whose hand. We kept going to Yoke and Maul, and that's, I think they're 2 amazing players, so you can never get mad at that. But I just think to beat that team, we got to get more players involved. We got to move the ball a little bit better. We can't be predictable against that team. If I'm going to be out there on the floor playing a lot of minutes, I think I should voice that. So
I'll probably talk to the coaches, just tell them what I see being out there on the floor, just letting them know, look, like they know what we're doing. Like we got to swing the ball. We got a lot of players who can play basketball and score, so we got to get some more guys involved.
I mean, I guess.
All right, Wilds, what'd you make of that?
I mean, part of me thinks that it's like really out of pocket to tell the reporters before you tell your coaching staff and just sort of air your dirty laundry. And then part of me thinks, Broussard, got a point. You're down 3-1. In the first half, he had 25 touches. The second half, he had 12 touches, 7th on the team. He's like, guys, I'm really good. I don't know if you've been watching the sports highlights, but I'm good. I was like the steal of the draft. So, Broussard, I'm sort of on the fence in this one. I'm kind of leaning towards agreeing with him.
Look, you would like to have him just go talk to Mike Malone privately about it, but let's face it, part of what makes Michael Porter Jr. a special player, or potentially a special player, maybe a star eventually in this league, is his precociousness, his fearlessness, his ultra confidence in himself. And, he's a 22-year-old rookie, essentially, and he lit up the bubble during the seeding games, made the all-seeding team, had 15 points in the first half last night. You don't do that unless you're a fearless kid that thinks you can do anything, against the Clippers, no less. And so the good comes with the bad. And the bad of that is you make statements like this publicly to the media. But he is right. There was a play in the second half where he had, I think it was Lou Williams, posted up, and Murray had the ball and could have hit him. But Murray dribbles to the other side, tells Porter to kind of move out to the wing, and then passes it to Porter on the wing when he's covered. And that clearly frustrated Michael Porter Jr. So, look, I saw this coming. Michael Porter Jr., having played so well in the seeding games, was going to have trouble going down in the pecking order when Jamal Murray came back. And that is what has happened. Yep. It's a good problem to have ultimately, but they've got some guys that aren't happy with their roles, and that's an issue.
Brandon, do you like what
Chris,
Michael
you're right.
Porter Jr. had to say?
Yeah, let me speak from a player's perspective. We're trained not to go out in the media and make headlines. We're trained to eliminate distractions. So when you hear this, it's counterculture to what sports is and what being on a team is. However, this is a tactic. This is a tactic that we've seen LeBron use. This is a tactic that we've seen Kobe, MJ use. We've seen Tom Brady use it. When the coaches aren't listening, you go in the media and you make a statement. Now you have their attention. But this is a huge issue for this locker room. This may be the reason why we're seeing this team underperform. Yes, Chris, I do believe they're still the better team, but they're not championship ready now because they're divided in the locker room. In the NFL, we call these small groups. You walk in the locker room, you see a couple guys over here chit-chatting. You walk on this side of the locker room, you see a couple guys chit-chatting here. Go in the cafeteria, you go in the recovery room, and you have all these small groups. Did you hear what Coach called? Do you like that play? Do you like that scheme? What that does is starts dividing your team. So what he's telling us is that our team isn't together, and this is a huge problem, and Coach Malone and those stars on that team needs to fix it.
I just want to add a little bit of context here. I think some of this is carryover frustration from Game 3 when Murray didn't have it, Jokic was exhausted, and all of a sudden the three biggest shots of the series from the Nuggets' perspective are being taken by Jeremy Grant instead of by Michael Porter Jr. So I think he was frustrated already going into this game. And listen, I like Porter Jr. I followed him throughout high school. He's from my home state of Missouri. He went to MU even though he never played for MU, so I root for the guy. But one of the reasons it's hard to game plan him into being the third option is because you don't know if he's going to be so bad defensively that you have to take him out of the game. So while I get it, you can speak to the media to get to your coach. Maybe as a rookie, when you're essentially a designated hitter, you don't do it after a Game 4 second-round loss against Chris Broussard's beloved Clippers. So he's got to take some of the ownership there as well. If he was not such a porous defender, I think he would have been more heavily incorporated in the game plan at the beginning of the series. But hopefully Broussard's back Monday when the series is tied at 3 and we can preview a great game set.
Oh, come on. That's not.
All right, we got to break. We got to talk a little football because tonight we finally have a little football. Previewing the season opener next. First things first.
Let's go.
Broussard.
It is now time for Four Things First, a collection of things we saw we love. Brandon, you got to keep Talib up first. Go ahead, buddy.
Shout out to the OG, Talib. Man, congratulations on an awesome career. He announced retirement yesterday. But what was better was his quote when he did it. And it gave us a little insight on how Coach Belichick think and approach the game. Here's the quote. My guy, my big homie Bill Belichick called my phone. Told me that he had the role of a lifetime for me. He really wanted me to come in and strap tight ends, meaning guard tight ends. I was halfway out the door. I got flights. I started finding apartments. But then I kind of start going through the schedule. I kind of see Kittle, Kelsey, Waller. So usually when I get in the position, I'm going to a new team. My thoughts are all positive. This time, I looked at this bleeping schedule and I said, can I even strap these damn tight ends? I said, oh, it's over with. Man, this is the best way to announce retirement. I love Talib. I love competing against him. But this is a guy that's always going to be transparent. He called Bill Belichick, what? My big homie.
That's great.
All right.
That's great.
Kevin Wilde's a tournament twist for you, buddy.
Oh, in the last 10 years, we've seen the best ideas and the worst ideas. The worst idea is when we decide to eliminate plastic straws and act like paper straws are effective whatsoever. They are not. Worst idea in the last 10 years. The best idea in the last 10 years is to bring all 357 teams into the tournament. One twist, though, 357 is an odd number, so if you divide it up by 4, we'd have the 189 matchup, leaving one poor team out. And if you're the coach of that team, I don't know. It's going to be tough to have job security.
That's a good point. Nick, a pass-fail from Jason Tatum?
Yeah, so listen, I've got bad news for America. Our friend Kevin Wildes not only evidently hates turtles with his little propaganda there for plastic straws, but also Kevin Wildes is out here spreading misinformation, saying Nick Nurse earlier in the show that he was breaking the rules here. Because you see Jason Tatum, he throws the ball because he thinks Nick Nurse is a teammate, despite the fact that Nick Nurse is an old man, that Nick Nurse is wearing glasses, that Nick Nurse doesn't have a uniform on. The NBA rulebook states the coach's position may be on or off the bench from the substitution box to the baseline. In other words, Nick Nurse did nothing wrong. Oh, he's not on the court.
Can he stand on the baseline?
No,
on the court.
No,
Look at his foot.
He is not on the court.
He's on.
No, it appears he's on the court because the bubble has extra wide lines because there's not fans sitting there. On a regulation court, he's not standing anywhere close to it. Totally in bounds. Bad play by Tatum with a minute left, and I'm very disappointed in Wilde's
It was totally in bounds.
Take as well.
In bounds, the field of play.
We're going to talk some baseball now. Braves outfielder Adam Duvall had himself a day. Hit not one, not two, 3 home runs yesterday. Didn't do that once. Last Wednesday, the guy hit 3 home runs in a game. He hit 2 3-home run games. For the Braves, Hank Aaron never did that.
Wow.
Chipper Jones never did that. And the guy had 9 RBI on the night. And the Marlins, they had a tough evening. Braves beat him 29-9. And last but not least, Adam Duvall says before the game, whatever happens to his wife, tonight is for you. You know, anything with an affair of the heart is for me. Adam Duvall, I now adore you. You are one of my favorite athletes. I love it.
He's
all right,
bold saying
let's talk
that.
some Patriots now. Right? Could have gone really, really wrong for him.
Yes.
But it didn't. 3 days away now from Cam Newton's debut against the Ryan Fitzpatricks and the Miami Dolphins in Foxborough. And according to a column in The Ringer yesterday, Cam has, quote, seamlessly adapted to his new surroundings. I mean, you want to go where everybody knows your name, and that's what he did. This after Cam himself called his relationship with Coach Bill Belichick a match made in heaven. I don't know who snickered, but you can take that back now. He said that on the radio Monday in Boston. We welcome in Coach Mangini again. Coach, I gotta ask, are you buying all the headlines all the love out there between Cam and Belichick, that the two are meshing perfectly, that they're a, quote, match made in heaven. You buying it all?
Well, Jenny, you must really love this story because it's an affair of the heart. And the one thing that we all know about Bill is he's always been completely honest and transparent with the media. So when he talks about a guy in such glowing terms, you know, over his 26-year career, that's what he's always done. You know, he's always just told it like it is. So I don't see why this would be any different. Whatever Bill's doing in terms of his discussion with the media, it's calculated and it's to send a message, and I'm sure it's to send as positive a message as possible when you're transitioning from Tom and a quarterback that's been there 20 years to a new quarterback. You want to instill that confidence. So I understand that. What I will say is if Cam is healthy, and if things are going the way that they're portraying it to be, then I have a lot of high expectations for what Cam could do in this system, and I have a lot of respect for what Cam's doing in terms of changing his approach, in terms of embracing the coaching. To me, I think that those things are great, and there's a tremendous upside and a really happy ending to the story if it's true.
Coach,
If it's true.
I was in Denver with Josh McDaniels, and one of the things that jumped out to me, before I even get into this point, you know, I pride myself on being a high football IQ guy. You know, I didn't really have to take a lot of notes. I saw it, I got it. And when Coach McDaniels came in, I had to take a lot of notes because there were so many different personnels. Army, Navy, there was 11 different ways we can get into 11 personnel. 3 receivers, 1 tight end, that's 1 back. So when you look at Cam Newton from an X's and O's standpoint, Coach, what are you expecting to see when they roll out their offense on Sunday? Because this is a team that puts their guys in position. Cam is a guy that's been successful in the gun, zone read. That's not Tom Brady. So what are you expecting to see?
Well, one of the things I have so much respect for Bill Belichick for is I think it was 2016, he changed from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defense, which he had never run, you know, since even before his days as a defensive coordinator for the Giants. So to me, that shows a tremendous amount of egolessness and selflessness to be willing to change because it's for what's best for the team. I think offensively, if Cam's the starter, they're going to do everything they can to empower Cam and to do what he does well. The system that Tom Brady had may not be the best system for Cam. So they're gonna adjust and learn as the season goes on and make sure that they give him a heavy dose of what he does really well and what he's comfortable with, regardless of what they may want to do systematically. So I would imagine Josh will change, and then they'll keep pushing the comfort level as much as possible.
Coach, there was a huge upset earlier in the show when you said success is like a martini. That skyrocketed to my favorite Eric Mangini quote, dethroning the former champion force multiplier, which I wanted to talk about now. There's so much talk about Cam's energy from the offense and the defensive side of the ball. It's like, Cam's great. Cam's here. Cam's loose. He's got great energy. Cam's being the leader in the locker room. Cam is fantastic. Who's Tom Brady? Is he selling electrolyte water? Does that even work? Is that even a thing? So can you talk about Cam's idea or the idea of a force multiplier and how that could be, you know, affecting all of the Patriots?
Well, look, energy at this point is incredibly important. You've got a situation where you lose Tom, and then you have all those players opt out. This is an opportunity for a tremendous amount of uncertainty for people to look at it and say, okay, this is the year that they have to rebuild. This is the year that things are going to go the wrong way instead of the way that it has for the Patriots. So to be able to bring in a name like Cam and the energy that he has, it's a huge uplift for guys. And so I think that is a force multiplier in terms of the optimism. Now, nothing's gone wrong. there hasn't been any missed reads. There hasn't been any sacks. There hasn't been any strip sacks. There hasn't been any adversity. So it's going to be, how that plays out when it happens is going to be interesting to see.
And adversity is going to come as it's going to come for every team. Well, 31 teams. There's one team I'm not certain if it's going to face much adversity. It's neither here nor there. But, Coach, I want to ask you a question before we wrap up here. Because Cam said something interesting when he was, I forget who he was talking to. He's like, listen, one of the reasons folks thought Belichick and I wouldn't get along is because I'm a black quarterback, and he didn't really finish the thought. And one of the things that I have found that I find most interesting about sports, but football in particular, is the way it can bridge divides. And I just want to key on your experience, because some of your closest friends to this day, or the guys you have the most admiration for, are guys who came from very different worlds from you. Who, you know what I mean, who maybe outside of football you would have thought we don't have a ton in common, and then you find out when you get on the practice field and you get in the meeting room, oh my God, we're kindred spirits here. And I'm not saying Belichick and Cam, we know that they're that yet. What I am saying is people might have assumptions that, oh, these guys won't get along or they won't vibe when they actually do. So I don't know for you if it's Ty Law or whom it would be, but a guy that once you actually got to know him, you're like, oh my God, this guy and I see football the same way. We like to approach it the same way. And even if you guys would have looked like something of an odd couple walking down the street together.
You know what? One of the things I love about sports, and the reason I want my kids to always play sports, is because it does break down so many stereotypes. An NFL locker room is such a cross-section of society. It's all different races. It's all different socioeconomic backgrounds. It's all different education levels, religions, all those things. But yet you come together for a common purpose. And as you're working on that common purpose, all those barriers that you've been taught or been ingrained over time break down, and you realize it's just people. It's just people. And to me, that's one of the most magical, important things that sports does. A guy like Brian Cox, who grew up very different than I did, and had very different very different paths to the NFL. I love Brian Cox, and he came into the Jets when I was there as a guy that had a lot of problems. I didn't know what to expect, but as I got to know him, just this smart, passionate, cared about football, good person, and it's one of those things where you can have a perception and the reality is so different.
Yeah, because we're all aiming for the same thing. There's a level of respect there. There's a level of vulnerability there. We're putting ourselves in position to listen to each other. I can name so many guys as well. I can name owners. I can name coaches. You have Mr. B, brought me to Denver. You have Jay Cutler, Jake Plummer, Tony Scheffler, guys that come from different worlds than I came from. In my neighborhood, there was one white family. In their neighborhoods, there was probably one black family or none at all. And we were able to sit at the table and talk, have conversations, and also do life together. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Eric Decker, Nick Mango. You go to Tony Sperano, miss Coach Sperano so much. So I think you're right. Well, it's not I think. You are 100% right. Not only does it break down barriers, it also knocks down walls and barriers for people to come together and have uncomfortable conversations and really just enjoy each other. Get to know the person for who they really are outside of the game.
You know what just happened here, guys? We all just jumped on my corner. We're all affairs of the heart people. We all love to get along with everyone. We're all big relationship people. And I love
well
it.
Done, Jenna.
I like what you did there.
I love you back.
That was well
you see?
done.
Oh, virtually hugging everyone.
We need
Eric
it.
Mangini,
America
Coach,
needs it
so
right
much,
now.
as always. Great news. We are 11 hours and 20 minutes away from kickoff tonight. I did some math there, Nick. That was for you because I love you. Chiefs Texans next. First things first.
Except it's 11.
Fox NFL Sunday is back this week with a great slate of early games. Then how about this blockbuster, America's Game of the Week? Brady and the new look Bucs taking on Breeze and the Saints. Check your local listings for the games in your area, or you can watch it on the Fox Sports app. Back here, first things first, time for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Well, the NFL season gets underway tonight at Arrowhead when the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs, that was for you, Nick, play host to the Texans. Both Mahomes and Watson, remember, coming in with those shiny new contracts. Their first meeting since the divisional round game that turned into an instant classic last year. So, Brandon, I want to kick off the conversation with you. What do you think is the key to tonight's season opener?
Texans at the defending champs. There you go, Nick, okay? I know you're going to have your popcorn. I know you're going to be excited. I know you're going to be watching closely.
Popcorn.
Yes, defending champs. But there's two things that we need to be looking for, Jenna. Number one is Deshaun Watson. He doesn't have D-Hop. We know that. But he does have receivers that can really play at a high level. Fuller, Brandon Cooks. It will be a game-time decision. But he has guys that he can go through his offense and work what he needs to work. And I highlight him because a lot of people are talking about this game being a blowout. They're favoring the champions by 9.5. By 9.5. Are you kidding me? That is ludicrous. You're saying that you don't have an all-time franchise quarterback that's real at the rim and at the hem. Oh my goodness! I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. Save me right now, Nick, because I'm so excited about football.
No, hold on real quick, Brandon. Brandon,
no,
you're saying that because Deshaun's great. Hold on. Because I got to understand. I think you can believe that Deshaun's great and the Texans are going to get blown out. Why can't both of those things be true? Why can't it be true that Deshaun is great, but the Texans are going to get blown out?
I'm not believing that. I'm getting all hyped right now because football's back. I can't even get my words out. But yes, Deshaun Watson, this is a guy that can win the game by himself. He's going to win 6 to 7 games himself this year. But then on the other side of the ball, you have J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt, there's no way you can let this defense give up 4 touchdowns in a quarter like you did last year versus this team. There's no way you can give up 50-plus points. There's no way you can do that. Football is back. I'm excited. I'm a loss for words. I'm struggling a little bit, but I know you guys are going to say because you're good teammates.
So here's what I think, Nick. There's been a little bit of dynasty talk in the offseason with your Chiefs.
There should have been.
You had Travis Kelce talk about dynasty. You had Mahomes say he was chasing a dynasty. You had the Chiefs tweet out a dynasty. You had Chris Jones talking about maybe 5 championships. You had Tyreek Hill talking about Jordan-esque 6+ championships.
Yeah.
So if it all goes well,
all those things happen.
Great predictions. But if you guys lose tonight, and Brandon, I know you talked about, hey, it's week 1, it's no big deal. You break the season into quarters. But I think if the Chiefs lost tonight, this would be a moderately devastating loss for you and bring you right back to the earth. And all of this dynasty talk would deflate the Chiefs balloon very quickly. That's what I would be worried about if I were you, buddy.
This is a very, very intelligent verbal trick you're playing here, and I respect the move, which is if the Chiefs win and roll, then we get to play they're talking dynasty. They win by 20 in the first week. They're going to be overconfident. But now if they lose, it's a deflating, devastating week 1 loss. The rare so the Chiefs are in the rare, if not unprecedented, must win week 1 game. I'll call it a must win.
You're saying it.
Luckily, they're going to win. Listen, the Chiefs they're not just chasing a dynasty. They're chasing something else, something rarer than a dynasty. Because there have been a bunch of dynasties in the NFL. Every decade's had one. They're chasing your Patriots' beloved 21-game winning streak, which was in 03-04. The Chiefs have won 9 games in a row. And there you go, Jen, exactly right.
But
that is not going to get snapped tonight by the fighting Bill O'Briens, no matter how many carries he gives to David Johnson.
Think about this. I don't play football anymore, and look how hype I got for this game, previewing this game. You have the Super Bowl champs getting their rings tonight. It's going to be this huge celebration. I don't know if it's in front of 15% of the fans, 20% capacity. Who knows? But those guys are going to be so worked up. If I am a former player that's been away from the game for 2 years getting this hype, these guys are going to be on an all-time level, and it could distract them from going through their process and working their game.
The flip side to that is they are playing a team that has to go back to the site of not only their most recent game, but for all of those guys, coaches and players, their biggest professional failure, being up 24-0 and then allowing 51 straight points. So you're talking about how hyped the Chiefs are. How hyped are the Texans, and how anxious do they get if things start going sideways? If the Chiefs lose the opening toss, Texans defer, take the ball,
one's hyper than me, baby.
Straight down the field and score. And go straight down the field and score.
And this little wrinkle, Wilds, Andy Reid has won his last 5 season openers. Billy O has lost his last 3 season openers. So there's that weighing against the Texans as well. Have the last word before we round this out. Go ahead, Wilds.
Well, I just want to clarify that, like, the Chiefs already got their rings, Brandon. So Nick is the only person giving the Chiefs more rings than they already deserve. I can't have you doing it as well.
Maybe just get ahead of it.
All right. Brandon, my friend, it is the moment you have been waiting for. We are about to make our Super Bowl 55 picks. Ease into this here. Lead us off. Who's going to Tampa Bay?
Okay. All right, let me relax a little bit because that was a terrible moment for me on TV, and I'm going to bounce back. I'm going to show you, Jamal Murray, how to bounce back, all right? Seahawks over the Steelers because of the recipe. The recipe doesn't change. You play good defense, you run the ball in November, December, you have a quarterback that can make plays, and you crush situational football. Seahawks over the Steelers.
All right, Kevin.
You want my analytical pick? It's probably Chiefs Saints. You want my heart pick? You want to see what the world really wants? Everybody wants Belichick versus Brady. Everybody wants it. That's what my heart is rooting for this entire year. Patriots over Bucks.
Okay, that's very cute.
I don't know who I'm picking.
I don't know how this happened. I'm going to go with the Chiefs over the Cowboys as the dynasty. Do you think the dynasty talks are going to be big when they have 2 in a row, Wilds?
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow, everyone.